What's up, Gator Nation? What's up, RollinwithCarlos family? Today I have a friend of the channel and a new creator on YouTube, Christopher Hobbzilla from the Swamp Report. How you doing tonight, Christopher?
What's up, Carlos? How are you doing, man? I'm doing great.
I'm doing excellent. Let's talk about. You told me over X that that you were able to see some of or a lot of the game. What were your first impressions of the orange and blue game yesterday? I mean Saturday. Sorry.
Well, it wasn't a traditional game. The defense was, scoring points by like stopping, Jaden Ball on 4th and 1 and things like that. So it was definitely a different, kind of game. And I kind of wonder if John, he was doing some, you know, dink and dunk type screen passes and things like that. I kind of wonder if he was just, showing the most basic vanilla offense that we could show, to kind of get this thing rolling and just have a good, scrimmage.
Now that you spoke about Coach Summerall, what were your first impressions about Coach Summerall? He wasn't necessarily the fan base's first hire. There was even a frat that had a sign that changed the name from Gainesville to Lanesville. Um, and unfortunately, it's not Lanesville; it's Summerallville.
Yes.
So, what were
Um,
your first thoughts
well,
when he got hired?
my first thoughts, I mean, as everyone remembers, I was, letting everyone know that the lane train was coming to Gainesville. So, that did, kind of sting a little bit that didn't work out that way. But, once John has got there and showed his, the side of him that he is, I'm excited about it. He's a tough guy. He is the kind of coach that will make the players believe and want to run through walls and things like that for him. And, he's a young coach. So I think that it's all positive stuff. I just want to see how it actually ends up going on the field.
Does he remind you? I've already anointed Coach Summerall Urban 2.0. Does he remind you of the era when Urban took over for Ron Zook? Because Ron Zook was a decent coach, but an amazing recruiter. Kind
Yeah,
of the
kind of
same
like
thing that we
Billy.
had
Yeah.
with Billy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is definitely, very reminiscent of that. It's just, that's such a high bar that Urban Meyer, set that it makes it, I mean, I don't want to go full on, I like right now, I'm on cruise control with the situation.
Everybody is.
Yeah. I don't have my foot to the gas, like to the pedal, like, hey, this is definitely going to work out. I just want to see how, big test will be Auburn. The first two games, that's not going to be nothing. But then you've got, Byron Brown at, Auburn, with the coach Alex that, beat us, with USF. So, I mean, it's going to be, come down to coaching for that game. And, me personally, I feel like Brown has a leg up on our quarterbacks. So,
Yeah. Your thoughts on the quarterback battle? I mean, because I've been a strong advocate even when DJ was in Gainesville that Trammell should have gotten a fair shot to be the quarterback. And from what I'm hearing, Trammell seemed to be play a little bit better in the second half because again there wasn't really a second half, but he seemed to be able to command the offense a little bit better than Philo, from what
yeah.
I heard. I don't know if it's true.
From what I saw, maybe he wasn't commanding the offense better, but it seems like the players kind of liked playing with him a little better. And other than that, he just simply did not make the mistakes that Philo did. So that said a lot to me. Trammell, sorry, my bad.
No
Um,
problem.
when you're in these type of you know, games like these spring games and things like that, you want to see separation and The big problem that everyone was having with, number two last year was the interceptions. Well, they're already surfacing, here in the spring game with Philo. So imagine what happens when you throw him in there with Auburn, and, then he gets thrown to Georgia and stuff like that. It's going to be a big thing. So right now, I mean, if I had to choose who looked better that day, I would definitely say that was Tramel Jones.
Are there any concerns that you have in terms of the team? I would personally say I'm worried about tackle.
Yeah, I agree. The offensive line, it looks to be, and I'm not sure that wasn't Phil, and some are all being a little strategical about that. Like, hey, this isn't a real game, let's just kind of make the offensive line look a little sloppier than, normal, because we're not worrying about if, you know, the sack has the impact of a real game. You're not trying to hurt your quarterback or anything like that. So maybe they wanted people to see a messy looking offensive line. That's the only thing I could think about. But, it was, what I did take away from it was some of these players that we've brought in, like Eric Singleton, Evan Pryor, the former Cincinnati Bearcat, Ohio State running back. He actually looked really fast, and Ball only carried the ball like four times, and he was stuffed on 4th and 1. So
Wow.
we got Clark at running back, so. Um, there's just a few variations you could look at it, that you could say that the Gators might have a really good defense, or, it could be that the offense is, firing pretty good. We got the firepower to do it. I mean, we got Dallas Wilson, he didn't play. We got Eric Singleton, VB3, the list of, good, Stockton, the good receivers is a really good room that we have. It's one of our best wide receiver rooms, but you got to get on the ball, and you can't throw in interceptions. That was the whole reason everyone had problems with our last quarterback. So,
This receiver room kind of reminds me of the Rudell Anthony era kind of receiver room that we had back then. Also, the receiver room under Urban Meyer. Um, what's your thoughts on Mays, Micah Mays?
yes, that is a stud. I don't know how he's going to work out in rotation, because I'm pretty sure he was getting all those passes because of Wilson being out. But Mays looks really good. So I'm also, there's Gross as well. He's in there, for playing time, but I don't believe he even got into the spring game, if I remember correctly. But
Do you think the quarterback that loses the quarterback battle is exit stage left, and we won't see him in the Gator uniform? Because we have a great kid that both of these kids got to watch out for, and I believe he's going to eventually be, not this year, but he'll eventually be our Gator starting quarterback by the name of Will Griffin.
yeah, I agree with you, man. I think Will Griffin's the real deal. Um, and it's easy to say that. I said that about AR. I said that about DJ Lagway, but Griffin, he has a little bit of a different aura to him. He wears number 11, he's got that Spurrier vibe. When he's moving with the ball, he kind of moves a little bit like Tebow. I seen him run people over in high school. He's got a great deep ball, and yes, I would say that's the future. I really don't know, who I would think would exit. I mean, and I feel like, if Jones don't get the start, that might be the beginning of that, because he's still a young dude.
Correct. Your thoughts on the two flips that we well, I don't know if Maxwell was considered a flip, but to me he's considered a flip because I think he was going to go somewhere up north. Maxwell and Fountain recently flipped, and it seems like we're on the verge of flipping another one by the name of Brewster.
Yes. Um, my thing with the recruiting is I've kind of laid off of it a little bit. I was, really big on keeping up with recruiting, but
Okay.
now that it's getting to the point where, you really want to, see where they're at in December and things like that,
Yes.
that's kind of where I get more excited then because, a lot of these recruits, not saying Maxwell, because if I'm not mistaken, he may have a Florida Gator tattoo, but not saying Maxwell as much, but a lot of players that, jump on the Florida State and the Florida, recruiting at the very beginning, just kind of put their toe out there saying, hey, I'm committing to the Gators. And then, they're also speaking with someone like Alabama, and then Alabama saying, oh, okay, well, you committed to the Gators. Now our number goes up. And then, it's kind of like, oh, well, is he still a Gator, So,
Yeah, it's a. I agree with you there. It's a tug of war, but I'll give Coach Summerall the benefit of the doubt because he kept um most of the current kids in this past class together. We only lost a running back,
yeah.
so I think if he's flipping people, I think, and he said it clearly. And I don't know if you saw his presser after the Orange and Blue game. He said, "You're either gonna like me or you're not going to like me." And it's one of those two because he's very energetic and he's going to bring the toughness out of the kids. He pretty much said, you're either going to be tough or you're not going to be a Gator.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what he said. And if that's one thing I'll give Summerall, like if I had to, like score him on the way he addresses the media and the way, like if me and you sat down with him and talked to him, how he would bro out with us and everything like that. He's 10 out of 10 there.
Yeah.
But with the schedule that we have and the loaded roster that he has, I mean, I'm sick of losing. I really am. Like going 4-8 last year. I know that wasn't his fault, but he's got some, like the cupboard is not empty there at Florida.
Yeah.
He's got some really good players. So I'm gonna need to see at least 7 or 8 wins, to feel halfway good about everything because he's got the pieces.
Well, I think we have a pretty good coaching staff. I think we have an all-star coaching staff. It might be the Gator Disney. I mean the Disney Gator in me, but I said I can see a 9-3, 10-2
Yeah. I
season.
mean, I made the mistake of saying 10-2 last season, but I was caught up. I was talking, with people that were, really close to DJ and everything like that. And they were telling me he's good to go. And, DJ was telling people he's good to
Same thing
go.
that
And
happened to me.
yeah, and obviously he wasn't good to go. And, I predicted 10-2 and man, we went 4-8. But I mean, there was a lot of factors, Dallas Wilson didn't stay on the field and, still seems to have a little bit of issue with that. I was tipped off last year that he might need a foot surgery. And that might still be something that either happened or, might be something that is looming. But I worry about that because he's such a talented player and such a unit and such a strong guy. Who he reminds me of is like a miniature Megatron. I
Yes,
really,
sir.
yep, I really think that he could be that type of player, but we just got to keep him on the field.
Well, from other channel, I'm don't get me wrong. I'm concerned, and I was gonna actually ask you that question. Are you? And then I'll tell you what I've heard from other channels. Someone ran into him from another podcast at I forgot where it was a gas station, but I forgot the name of it. And he said he's good to go. But I'm the type where okay, you've had a boot 2 off seasons in a row. You only played a few games last year. In order for me to believe you, you need to be on the field. Are you concerned he's another Trey Wilson type of
No,
situation?
for that I will speak strongly upon John Summerall. I think that that is the difference between him and Billy Napier. That John, he looks at it and says, "Hey, let's work on this cautiously." And once we see that you, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Dallas Wilson until Auburn. I think they're going to let that leg, rest, the ankle, whatever it is, rest. And then once, he gets to the point of, you know, being well enough to play, they're going to play him. They just don't want to, like, put him out there too early and injure him, is what I'm understanding with John and everything like that. But now, if Auburn rolls out and there's no Dallas Wilson, yes, I will be highly concerned.
Um, pick well now pick one player on defense that you expect to have a breakout season, and one player on offense. I was gonna say
Okay.
three, but I'll do one and one. We can
Okay.
always
That
have another show, and we can update that later.
Okay. Well, I think Kalu from on defense, the transfer, I think he's going to have a good year. And Jaden Woods on defense, of course, he's going to be a Tasmanian devil, is what I like to call him.
Yep,
And
I
then
call
on
him a unicorn.
Yeah, and then on offense, I would not be surprised to see Eric Singleton end up being the number one wide receiver, just with all the targets he got and how open he got, and working with, Cam Coleman and, wide receivers like that, and Auburn, that, obviously Auburn was doing something right with their wide receivers. And I'm not saying that, they were out there winning a bunch of games, but I am saying they were properly coached.
Yeah.
And I really feel like Singleton's going to light it up at Florida. And don't be surprised if, something happens to Ball, any kind of injury. I'm not trying to wish it upon him, but I think Pryor's ready to run with it. And I wouldn't be surprised if Clark can't run with it either.
Um, what are your thoughts? How long do you believe we're gonna have Buster Faulkner around?
That
Because I
here's
think he's only gonna be around for one or two seasons.
that's possible. I also have a theory that, say John, is making, bad splashes right away. I mean, I know Buster wants to be a head coach. There's a slight possibility that John could move on, and, then it's Buster's team. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened, honestly.
Oh, I didn't think about it that way, but I think Summerall's going to be here for uh, I would say
He's got a
five
contract,
seasons
so
start,
yeah, I
uh,
mean, the
unless everything breaks loose and he turns out to be another Billy Napier 2.0, which I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think he's Billy Napier 2.0. I just think it's the SEC. The schedule that you face with Florida is daunting for any coach. I don't care if you put Nick Saban in there, it's still going to be, it's not going to be cake. So, John's just got more to prove to me than, some other more experienced coaches, but I'm all for him doing great, and I want him to do great because I want the Gators to win. And the man says he's going to win right away. So I'm going to give the man the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to, I'm not going to, like I said, my foot's not going to be to the gas, and I'm not going to be like, oh, yeah, we're going to the playoffs, boys, but I am going to, cautiously watch. I mean, he may end up, doing a 10-win season or something like that and getting us into the playoffs. And then I'd, feel like an idiot if I said anything else. But I just want I just want to be cautious about it, because
Yeah, I got you.
we've just got burned so many times in 3 to 4 years.
What you think about the corners and the safety room, based on what you saw on the orange and blue game? Because I felt, based on what I've seen the clips, we've got lockdown corners and lockdown safeties.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also hard to gauge, on that. I mean, we got you know, Cormani McLean, he's back there. That helps, right off
Yes,
the bat.
and DJ
And
Johnson.
yep, and Ben Hanks is back there. I mean, he's back there at safety, I believe. And it's just it's a good vibe. Ben Hanks himself, I loved watching him play. If I'm not mistaken, he even rocked the number 11. And not that Ben Hanks Jr. is, but it's just another shout out to Spurrier. But I just would like to see, how Ben Hanks Jr. is going to do this season. I feel like he has, room to grow. And um, to be honest, I'm not the biggest defensive, like, how you've got a defensive minded coach, you've got an offensive
Yeah.
minded coach. I'm more of the offensive minded kind of guy. I love watching offense. Some people love watching defense. I love watching, the fourth and goal stands and things like that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. But other than that, I mainly try to stick to what those skill players are doing.
Can you give me, and we can update this. We're gonna update this later on because, like I said, we're gonna work together a lot. I like your vibe, and I've told you that on the phone. So,
Yeah,
um, can you give
same for you.
me a way too early record? And if we have any losses, who do you believe we can lose to and or trip up to?
Well, I mean, if you wanted like a way too early prediction from me right now,
Yes.
I mean, I would honestly probably say, and you're probably not going to like it, and Gator Nation's probably not going to like it. I'd have us at probably 7-5 just because I jumped in at the 10-2 last year. And
Okay.
like I said, I really do not believe this Auburn game is going to be easy. I think this could put us in a 2-1 position. And then if you're in that position, it just keeps getting uglier and uglier because there's way better teams than Auburn on our schedule.
What are the losses, if I may ask?
Well, I know Texas is really beefing it up.
Okay.
Let's see, we got
He's got to
uh
win some big games in order to not start feeling pressure in year one.
right. And I'm kind of, like I've said repeatedly, I'm worried about Auburn just because teams just don't gel. I mean, we don't even know, like, say that we get to game one and they're like, okay, so, it's game one. We're going to let Philo start this game since it's a cupcake. And then number two, we're going to do Jones and then it's cupcake. And then you're going into, Jordan O'Hare Stadium and it's, freaking you don't know who you're starting, and then it's a final minute last call, and say it's Philo, and he gets out there and starts throwing interceptions, and then you got Jones coming in off the bench to kind of try to rally us back. I mean, I'm really worried about that Auburn game.
Would you be okay with what Coach Spurrier used to do? Let's say we don't have a starter going into game one. Would you be okay with a rotating series type quarterback situation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of that, like it didn't really work the best for, Spurrier or Urban when they did it. I mean, yes, that sounds stupid, but there was times I remember that it wasn't working, especially for Spurrier. Um, but I'm pulling it up, and we got Auburn on the 19th, and
Yes.
then right after that we got Ole Miss on the 26th. That's at Gainesville, but their current coach, I don't think he's a bad coach at all. Like he impressed me in the bowl game, which they destroyed Tulane. And you never know what you're getting with Missouri. You never know what you're getting with South Carolina. Texas should be much better. Georgia should be much better. We got Oklahoma, luckily in Gainesville. I've seen Kentucky's even getting some big names. And then there's the Vanderbilt and Florida State game, man. So that's where let's see here. If I said 7-5. Um, there's the chance of Auburn being one of those, Ole Miss being one of those, Texas being one of those, Georgia, and possibly Oklahoma. And that's, like a best case scenario. That's if you have injuries and things like that, and just things don't go perfect. But if things go perfect and there's not a lot of injuries, and John's who he says he is, we should be 8-4, 9-3, one of the two.
Nine
So I
and
know
three
that's
takes us to 9-3 takes us to the playoffs, you believe?
yeah, yeah, I really do because um, with the strength of schedule and everything like that, I don't know if that still plays the factor.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, all those teams that we just talked about are going to be,
So we're
you
going
know,
9-3. If we go 9-3, we go to the SEC. Remember, it's a 9-game schedule. Um, we if we win the SEC championship, we're an automatic bid to the playoffs.
yes. And so that's basically me saying 7-5 if John arrives and he is who he said he was.
Yes.
Is 7-5 would be the low bar, and that's not going to be him being him. But if he is truly exactly the politician that he has put out there, because that's what it feels like. I mean, if he was running for president, man,
Well,
he would win.
he's
So
0-0, and he has to do a PR campaign because of the fact that he hasn't even coached one game.
I'm sorry, say that one more time. I read
I
that
said he
comment.
has to do a PR campaign because he hasn't even coached one game on the field.
Right, yes, I understand. But Billy, the difference with Billy was he was very, reclusive, but he also kind of made, DJ reclusive, so that's not really the way you want to go about it. I do appreciate John's hustle. It's just like there was little things that bothered me, like he had the playoff game with Tulane and Ole Miss, and I knew there was no way in heck that they were winning that game. They already got beat earlier in the year. The second time that they played, it was close to the same results. And yes, I get it. We're the Gators. We don't back down. We don't want, somebody like John Summerall to back down and leave his team. But I just didn't like if you remember correctly, he had like the split jersey. It was Gator and Tulane over here. I just felt like we went a little Tulane too much at the end. Even the GMFGs, from Tulane. So
Yeah, yeah. Um, your any other thoughts from the spring game that you saw yesterday? I mean, not yesterday. I keep saying
Saturday.
yesterday, thinking today is Sunday. Saturday.
Well, like I said, Evan Pryor, like I really don't think, you know, that's a locked in, I've seen players like Ball have a great year, and then the next year, it's not the same guy, and that's, not expected to be, with a running back as much. But I mean, just any little, hamstring pull or anything like that, that could be, that could be bad. But there wasn't anything that that really stuck out. I'm trying to look through some of my notes because I definitely took notes. I do think that Jones, completed the most beautiful pass of the day.
Mhm.
It was a dime to Eric Singleton. I know you watched it. It's out of play action. Um, I didn't like the fact that the score ended 45-45 with Billy the year that I went in 2024.
Yeah.
He had a similar ending to it, so it almost feels a little bit, I won't say scripted, but just a little bit weird. But man, Eric Singleton and Micah Mays, man, those guys were lighting it up. So
Um, I'm gonna give a quick shout out to two recruits that are gonna come on the channel. Which, by the way, you're invited to the summer series. I've got 15 potential recruits coming on to the summer series. And one of
thank
them
you.
reminds me of Jaden Baugh. He's a kid from Texas. His name is Sydney. Right now, his last name escapes me. Um, if any of the staff members from Gainesville are listening, you should recruit this kid because he reminds me of Jaden Ball. I haven't done a video on him because none of the recruiters have. I mean, none of the reporters have interviewed him. But I can do a video if I can build up enough highlights and if I can find an article about the kid. The other recruit I want to shout out is Noah Patel. He's a kid under the radar right now, and this kid is a excellent slot receiver. He's only a sophomore, and I think he should. I'll tell you this much: if and when the Gators offer him something, the kids are through and through Gator.
Yeah.
There's no
And
other school. It's a
yeah,
lockdown.
and when there's a player like that that's when the coaches need to go above and beyond, for the players that are actually, 100% true blue, born and raised Gators, because those are the ones that will actually, stay committed and put their, heart on the line, blood, sweat, and tears for the Florida Gators. So they definitely should take note of those players.
I've been tagging the coaches. I'm gonna have them on. Which, by the way, you're welcome to come on the summer series.
Yeah, I would love that.
There's gonna be different times shows because I'm going based on what the kids' availability is. So, and I'm also gonna have Tyler Alexander. I'm trying to get another kid from Key West, but I'm glad you got to see the orange and blue game. I didn't know someone was gonna stream it. I didn't know who was gonna stream it, so I've only caught clips. Um, so your thoughts? We're gonna be anywhere between 7-5 and 9-3. Is
Yes.
7-5 already gonna cause problems in Gator Nation?
Uh, I mean, I don't know. It seems like everybody's really patient and really loves John. So, I mean, not really, because that's a first year that you got to burn. So, like, I, I really feel like that's why we didn't go so heavy in the portal, you know,
Okay.
was because we were trying to get the coaching staff together and they knew that this first year may play out however it plays, because it's a game. But by year two, I think we're going to hit the portal hard, and that's when I'll be way more excited about everything because I just feel like we underspent a little bit in the portal. And if it's okay with you, Carlos, I did want to give a shout out to Guru Drew just
Yeah,
because
you can
he.
go. You can go ahead and do
Okay,
that.
cool.
I
Thank
have
you.
no problems with shout outs.
Okay, so it's Guru Drew 352 on Twitter, and I just wanted to thank him personally because without him doing that, I would have not got to see it. My son would not have got to see it, and I could not be telling you some of the things that I got to see. So
Another quick question: don't you feel comfortable that pretty much we've been told that Urban was pretty much the guy that kind of interviewed him?
yeah, I mean, also Danny Werfel,
Yes,
he played a
yes,
role,
yes.
so it
How
makes me.
comfortable do you feel that it was Urban that gave the university the green light?
I mean, the only thing is with Urban, it's like you want to give the guy the green light, but it would have been cool if you would have just accepted the position too, Urban. That's my thing. Because
But
he's stick
I don't think Urban's coming back to Florida. Not
no,
with
he's not, and
yeah,
his health just isn't allowing it, and he's over Florida, but he still sticks around to help us out with things like
yes.
that. So
He's
uh,
still a Gator, some at heart.
yeah, and
So
I just don't know, like um I just there's just certain things, like the way we were gunning for Kiffin so hard, and then we ended up with Summerall, and there's always the back of my mind wondering if when if you remember when John first came in, he may have just been straight up joking, but he immediately talked about Kiffin. He was like,
yeah, he was. I think it's a joke.
yeah, but if it wasn't, it kind of leads me to think that hey,
Yeah.
Tulane's in New Orleans. They both were contending for that job, and John, we got the consolation prize.
But I'll put it to you this way, and you might agree, you might disagree, but like I said, you're a friend of mine, so I don't care if you disagree.
Yeah,
Um, I think I think Lane wouldn't be here more than 3 to 4 years.
yeah, and I was cool with that, man. I just wanted him to, hurry up and bust one out, and get it, and if he had to go on to Alabama or wherever he really wants to be, that be it. But I got to stop bringing that guy up so much. But it's just he's just a pedigree of coach that his father was a great defensive mind. He's learned a lot from that because during warm ups, Lane Kiffin will actually sit there and watch the opposing team's defense and stuff like that warming up, and he's looking for
Yeah.
who's banged up so he can get an advantage on them. He's a really methodical coach, and he's been doing it so long. That's why I was so gung ho on the Kiffin train, and
No, I
it's
agree. I was on
yeah,
board the Kiffin train, but
yeah,
my thought always in the back of my mind was, how long is he going to stay at the next school? Because it's like, yeah, LSU's excited and they have all the right to be, but how long is he going to be wearing purple and gold? Is
yeah.
the question.
No, I get it, and
Because
yeah, they're probably
I think his ultimate goal is either
Bama,
Alabama or the
Bama.
NFL.
Yeah, I still believe it's Bama, man, because like he's just leveling up everywhere he goes and getting more and more experience. Like he didn't even that told me a lot when that man stepped away from that playoff team. Some would say that looks like treachery or whatever, but to me that said, hey, I'm a confident coach. I'll be in the playoffs next year. I don't have to be there with them.
And anything that you like of the defense, since you're an
um
offensive mind, but I'm pretty sure you looked at the defense.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, we have Kalu. He's making big, noise. They're saying that he's, really sticking out. And he came from Baylor, and we've got, like I said, Jaden Wood, Ben Hanks. We've got plenty of players that can make big plays on defense. It's just we also lost I noticed you mentioned we only lost like one running back or something like that earlier,
Yeah,
but we did
out of the class that
offense.
just
Okay,
came in.
gotcha. But we did lose some defensive line players that we could have used not losing. So I believe was it Micah Burrow that we lost?
Yeah, but I'm talking
Or
just
did he
from the
come
class.
back?
I'm
Okay.
not talking from current players. Michael Burrow we lost, but it's because the kid they're chasing bags. Like
Yeah.
another example, look who's trying to come back to Florida, and I did a video on him. It's gonna come
Aberdeen.
out in the next couple of days. Um, and he's now asking for another year. I'm like, you went to Kentucky to go chase a bag, and now because they couldn't win the championship, you're crawling back to Golden.
Hey, me and you feel very much so, like, because a lot of people have been celebrating that and putting posts out about it, and I didn't even want to reshare it because I was just like, dude, you've already left the Gators, and now after you went into shambles, you want to come back, crawling back to us. Like, do you remember the chants during the basketball season about
Yes,
Aberdeen?
yes.
Yeah, all that. Like, it just don't make sense. But if that's what Gator Nation wants, and it's best for the team, then let's have it. But it's just personally, little things like that kind of bother
He's a
me
good
sometimes.
defender, but his shots went down in Kentucky.
Yeah,
I think he shot like 36%.
yeah,
So I mean, is he really an upgrade from what we had last year? Because no offense to Lee, but we lost to Iowa because he made a mistake.
yeah, yeah. No, and that's the sad thing about it. I'm not even sure. Is Leah? What class is he?
Lee's gone. He's a
Okay,
senior.
so that's what I was thinking that he was. I knew he was either on the verge but it's just moving. He took a lot of heat from us, and I feel like a lot of that was unwarranted. Like it ain't like he was out there doing that stuff on purpose, man. He was
No, no, of course not.
trying. And now, did we overpay him? Yes, we
Yes.
overpaid him a lot. You're paying that man what, $3 or $4 million, and then you're going to give Jaden Ball $1 million. It don't even make sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Guys, we're not leaving yet, but follow his channel, follow the Swamp Report. We're working on stuff in the background to eventually down the road have a show together. We've already spoken about it, but I just wanted to put it out there. And guys, I'm also personally working on a big surprise for Gator Nation on my channel. I'm not gonna say who it is, but this should tell you. And I'll leave it. I even posted it on the channel. He said, "Drop the maybe cuz." I don't know who that is.
I don't
You
know
can
who that
figure
could
it out.
be.
So do you believe Golden's going to get an extension, and I believe he should get an extension because there was rumors that North Carolina wanted to go after him.
Yeah, and I still believe those were true, and I still believe. I mean, we play so many games to save money and to, like not, you don't want to build too much hype for these other teams and things like that. But I think, very certainly North Carolina at least, presented a package to him, but he's just he would be stupid to, I hate to say it about our coach, but I'm just saying you'd kind of be foolish to leave Florida. And like, we treat him really well there. I mean, he had a $4 million budget with somebody like Lee. So, I mean, it looks like he's actually getting, a pretty good budget for, the players that he wants. He's getting the money he wants. He's a really cool dude. Him and John on campus together, they make sense. They're both fired up young guys. I mean, as pessimistic as I can be sometimes, just because I personally do not adjust to change very well. It takes
Yep.
a little bit longer than more people. It's something I've dealt with my whole life. It just little small things that could be changed, and it's nothing I can do about it. But it's just something that's a part of me. But I've lived this change so many times, we with Napier, McWayne, just everybody else, Mullen, like, because it seemed like Mullen was going to be the guy, like
Yep.
he
Well,
had
I thought he was a true Gator when he first came.
yeah, and I mean he had the offense together, but then when you're laughing after we just got skunked by Georgia, man, it's like, hey, we're the Florida Gator fans, bro. Like, you're disrespecting us with that smile. So. It's just been one thing after the other, man. It's always looked good, but until it actually, happens. So, again, I'll say it again, that game 3 against Auburn's everything, man. I know it's early and it sounds silly, but we've got to lock that win in. You can't lose to Auburn, then play Ole Miss and expect a rebound. I mean, it's going to be not that easy.
One more question, and I know I'm going to let you get out of here because I know you got to take care of your son,
Yes,
and
sir.
it's kind of not getting late for you, but it's late because they got to go to school tomorrow. What
Yeah.
do you think of Buster Faulkner gonna be using double running backs in backfield? He said he double running backs are coming.
Well, yeah, I see that happening, and that would be beautiful. I mean, I think we've got, we've talked about having a running back trio before, but this is our best running back trio, in my opinion. Like Clark, he's awesome. He's very fast. We have, Evan Pryor, we got Ball. And I think on the Wildcat, they've been practicing a lot of,
Yes, they have.
QB practices with Ball, and he used to be a QB in high school. So, I really think that, there's going to be some trickery and some surprises there. And what we saw at that spring game is not what we'll see, when we play Auburn. It's going to, the first 2 games, we're probably just going to go in there, let the quarterbacks do their thing, try to figure out who's actually got the better grip of everything. And then by, that Auburn game, that's when we'll see.
All right, buddy. Where can they find you? And anytime once you figure out the technical stuff on your channel, I'm more than I'll go on your channel. This was
Yeah.
originally supposed to be on your channel, but I took the
Yeah.
reins because you asked me to.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
and
You
you're
did
more
help
than
me.
welcome to come anytime on my channel. And like I said, we're working on building a show together eventually down the road. I love that we are gonna collab a lot. I like your spirit on this, and I appreciate your support on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and on all other social media platforms. But where can they find you, and how often do you do shows, or how often do you want to do shows?
Okay. I do shows, not as often as I would like, but I've recently adjusted my work schedule to where I'll be able to start doing more shows. And they can find me on Facebook. You can find it under the name you see there, Christopher Hobbzilla, or even Christopher Hobby, like the Hobby Lobby. Some places
Okay.
have those craft stores nearby them, or golf is my hobby. And I'm on X as Chris, underscore Hobbzilla.
Yes,
And
sir.
yep, and Instagram, Christopher underscore Hobbzilla. And I'm also on YouTube under the Swamp Report. So, but it's been a pleasure talking to you, Carlos.
We'll be back at it again soon, my friend. I
Yes,
already consider you a friend, and you know that because we have our numbers. So
yes, yep.
we'll be back at it again soon. Like always, guys, I appreciate your support. Don't forget to hit the like button. If you want some merch, the link is down there. It's Rolling with Carlos at myshopify.com. And you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. We're out of here. Like always, stay positive, stay on your grind, and go Gators.
Go Gators. Give them that chomp, baby. All right, later, guys.